Hello, this is exciting. Angelina, it's so lovely to be talking to you. And we've got a really exciting event coming up. I'm going to Ireland for the first time in my life. I've never been to Ireland. I'm so excited about that. And you were definitely instrumental in that. Come to Ireland, Deb, come to Ireland. And we decided, whilst I'm there, to extend our conversation and invite people in to the magic. So tell us about what it is. What have we decided to do? Let's share.
The magic we're creating. And first of all, can I say it is an absolute pleasure and an honour, Debs, to bring you to Ireland, to the West Coast, over to us in Galway on the West Coast of Ireland. So Debs and her beautiful niece Beck are coming over to visit in September. So we have decided that on Saturday the 20th and Sunday the 21st of September, we're going to host a little retreat. A small intimate retreat in Oranmore, in the beautiful, beautiful village of Oranmore in County Galway, called Making Friends with Life, Finding Peace in this chaotic world.
Mm.
So, Debs, I'm going to ask you, what does it mean to you to make peace in a chaotic world? But what does it mean to you to making friends with life? What does that mean?
Well, what this whole thing reminds me of was in the early days when I first came across the principles, and living here in North Devon, and Lucy and Beck, my two nieces, check them out if you don't know them, amazing, amazing women. They would come here and visit me, and we would just hang out and have amazing conversations about what are the principles pointing to us to? What does it mean? What are these things? And what I saw was just through having those conversations, that time together, things in all of our lives, my life, Lou's life, Beck's life, would just change. It would seem we would hang out like this. We would talk about the truth of who we were. We would talk about our true spiritual nature. We'd laugh a lot. We'd have a lot of fun. We'd eat, we like cake. And we've got cake on our retreat. And it felt like that would really help us make friends with life. And to me, it was what I can see is for so many years, life was just a struggle. I had a lot of anxiety about definitely about what other people thought of me, what other people thought about anything and everything. And this whole idea, for me, one of my biggest fears was that I was a complete and utter letdown. I'd failed in so many ways and what have you. And through these conversations, through looking in this direction, through exploring and asking internal questions, I guess through that exploration, that started to change. My experience of that completely changed, and how I react when I'm not saying that never comes up, I'm not saying it never pops up to me that I'm not good enough, that I'm a disappointment, that I failed. Those things do still come up, but how I feel about them coming up, what happens internally, like life now feels like this big adventure. It feels like my friend. It feels like something I'm excited about. And when those things arise, it's like, oh yeah, there's that ridiculous thought again that I used to believe was true. So that's why to me it felt like such an amazing idea when Beck and I visit you in Ireland to invite people into this conversation, because it truly truly is life-changing in ways that I don't think we have any way of knowing how our life's going to change and the extent to which it can change it. The transformation is it's amazing. It's unbelievable.
So that sounds really, really delightful. But as an Irish person, and we're probably quite cynical in our ways, you're, you mention our spiritual nature. You mention, being in this conversation, looking this direction. So for somebody who has never heard of the principles understanding, what does all of that mean? Like, I mean, what's the principles understanding? But what is looking in this direction? So for somebody who's never heard any of this before, I mean, spiritual, what do you mean? I mean, going to mass on a Sunday and saying the rosary. Uh, so that's what I'm curious about, Deb. What is this? What are you talking about?
Great question. What am I talking about? Well, that was the interesting thing, I think, when way back when we used to have those conversations, because very much we were in that space. So I came across the three principles, something that a man named Sydney Banks articulated, spoke about. I came across them after I had been in a women's refuge through and escaping a pretty abusive, horrendous relationship. And my life was a mess. Like, talk about making friends with life. I despised myself, and my life was a mess. And then I came across this man talking about, I was looking for ways to help myself because I was in such a terrible mess. I was on the internet looking for ways to help myself, and I came across this guy called Jamie Smart who was putting out some free stuff, and I had no money, and he put out this free stuff, because he was becoming interested in the principles, and I had no idea what they were, no idea about anything. And I just listened to this conversation. I was actually cleaning a holiday cottage, and I listened to this conversation, and something shifted inside me. Something changed. Something huge just shifted and changed. And very much like you, I was like, I have no idea what spiritual, what does that even mean? I had a religious upbringing, but all that felt to me like that was, you must do this and you should do this and you have to do this, and if you don't do this you'll burn in hell. That's what religion felt like to me. It didn't feel like a connection with something inside me. And yet this conversation connected with something inside me, and something shifted. And it was unexplainable in many ways how that shifted and why that shifted. And I went from thinking that I had damaged my children, despising myself, thinking, and this is what I'd been told in counselling, that there was the only hope for my children was to learn coping strategies. They were never, the trauma that they had suffered would never be erased. And in this moment, listening to this conversation, I just had a huge realization that my children weren't broken, and that I was okay. And it was literally, and so then I did spend quite a long time trying to work that out, trying to make sense of that. And so, what is this conversation? What is looking in this direction? What does it mean? What it means to me is there is something more to us than first meets the eye. And certainly when we start to get into trouble in our lives, in whatever way it is, and literally I mean whatever way it is, this thing about us that is more than what we see in just our humanness, if we explore that and ask those questions, what is spirituality, what does it mean, I don't, get in the room, ask those questions. When these questions are asked, what I see is from within ourselves, these questions are answered in ways that make sense to us. So my answers, and answers that make sense to me, may not make sense to you. But when we expose ourselves to an experience of this, the likelihood that something will shift within us is pretty huge. And I know you've had similar experiences of seeing things shift within you. Your story is an amazing story. We both here have fantastic stories of hope. And that's what I love, because what happened to me, and being in that relationship for all those years, and what happened to my children. I'm sat here talking to you now, and my daughter has just messaged me, and I've got two daughters and a son, and one of my daughters has just messaged me. We've just spent an amazing summer. I've been hanging out with my grandchildren, both my daughters, my son, and the closeness. And that's to me what's important. It doesn't, words like this conversation, spiritual nature, all these, I don't care what that means. What this means to me, what being in this conversation means to me, is I have a relationship with all three of my children. In spite of everything that happened, my children are healthy adults in good relationships, good, healthy relationships, and we hang out and have a lot of fun. And so to me, that's the importance of it. Whatever this is, whatever it make, whatever words you put on it, whatever words you use, what is really important to me is that. I sat here one day. I'm living in a static caravan at the moment because we're building a house, and all the kids were here. My grandchildren are here. There was a baby in the middle of the floor. I got my sewing machine out. I'm trying to make costumes because we're going into the local carnival. We're doing something amazing in the community. We're having fun. There's loads. They're outside painting a float, making stuff, doing things. And I just looked at my little grandson sat on the floor. I could see my two daughters. I could see my other grandchildren, and I just sat here. And the feeling of love, the overwhelming feeling of love and connection and gratitude, and oh my gosh, this is what it's all about. These moments. And to me, that, from where I was on that day when I heard my first conversation, when I first heard the words three principles, when I first heard of Sydney Banks, to having that moment, a moment like that of love and connection, being with my children in that way, just looked impossible. Just looked, it could never happen. And the amount of times that we laugh and have fun and do amazing things like that, those moments are, I have more of those moments in my life than any other type of moment. So to me, that's what, taking the time out to get curious about this conversation, that's what's on offer. And your version of whatever that is, if you haven't, whatever's going on in your life, that, to me, the possibility of that kind of change is what's on offer here.
Wow, you have me sold.
So you're going to join me then?
It sounds very much like Deb's. So for me, and the three principles is simply just an understanding. And I rarely use the phrase because I find sometimes it confuses people. But it is an understanding, as you said, that was first articulated by a man called Sydney Banks. For me, it has given me the gift of a quieter mind. And I am still an incredibly busy-minded person, but my mind is actually a million times quieter than it used to be, even if it's still revved up quite a bit of the time. But a quieter mind to appreciate the beautiful moments in life. I miss them for so long. And you talk about your kids and your grandkids. So I suppose, as most people know, I have three kids, and my daughter has a rare syndrome. And before coming across this understanding, and before I had my first insight, a really big one, that I didn't have to believe every thought that went through my head. I really, really struggled with having a child with disabilities.
Mm.
And then after I realized I didn't have to believe every damn thought that went through my head, all 6 million of them in an hour, let alone a day. And I grappled to catch on to some of them, and a lot of it was really, really, really horrible stuff. My relationship with my daughter has changed, and I see the beauty of Zoe today, and I see the beauty of who she is. And what I had missed for so long, and anybody who knows me knows the early days were really, really tough, and Zoe really, really struggled with being on this earth, maybe. And, it took her a long time. She had a lot of sensory processing issues along with everything else. but is that she now lives her best life every day. And her best life is as simple as what you described, of just sitting there looking at your grandson and feeling that love and connection. She is like a ball of love and connection all the time. And it pours off her and radiates out. And I missed that because I was so caught up in my head, doing, but only in my head, juggling the balls, spinning the plates, busy. And it was all on me, actually, was one of my big things. I was responsible for everything. And for me, it has been that slowing down, being in this conversation, talking about what we're really made of, who we really are, beyond this sense of responsibility, beyond this sense of what's going on in my head all the time. For me, that has been the biggest gift, is the slowing down. As somebody said to me recently, how often do you stop to let your mind breathe?
Mm.
And I think this retreat, Making Friends with Life, is that
Yeah.
time to let your mind breathe.
Mm.
And allow the creativity to come in, allow the wisdom, the inspiration to come in. Because it was that I was so disconnected from for so long. And I think Making Friends with Life retreat, that's what it is, giving us, all of us, the opportunity to slow down and connect with that creative essence, with that inspiration, with that wisdom, and allowing it to come to the fore. And when we follow that guidance, then life feels like our friend.
Yeah, it really does. Life becomes magical from there. It really does. And the brilliant thing is, each and every one of us are our own experts on our own life. We've both described coming across Sydney Banks, whatever this understanding, whatever words you want to use. And we've both had profound changes in our lives, and yet we can speak about it quite differently. And there isn't, this isn't about experts. This is definitely, that's why these conversations and just being together and spending time together and talking in this way, it opens things up inside of people that make sense to them. And it's not about being a carbon copy of Angelina, a carbon copy of Deb, a carbon copy of anyone, Sydney Banks, it's not about that. It is discovering yourself, the freedom to be you. Because when your mind slows down, you find out how amazing you are and what's possible for you. And I think most of us go through life in some way or another believing that we are not enough. Believing that, all these other people have got it sorted out. They're absolutely fine. They're amazing. They're brilliant. But me, no, I'm no good. I'm not enough. I don't do enough. I can't, whatever it is. And it's like beginning to see that differently is huge. So, I mean, I could talk about this with you all day. But that's just a taster, I guess, of the conversation that's going to be going on. And I am absolutely certain there is going to be some huge inspirational sharing happening in that room. And we would love to invite people to join us because, with people in the room, it's so much fun.
Yes, and just to end on when you were talking there, we've called this retreat Making Friends with Life. And as you were speaking, it was like, it's making friends with ourselves, really, isn't it? Befriending ourselves, reconnecting with ourselves. For me, and this is an ongoing journey, is learning to love myself.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, me too. Me too. And one of the things that I often say is absolutely everything in life, you can use it for yourself or against yourself. Like, you talk about your daughter, and I am sure there were moments when you beat yourself up because of your daughter's disabilities, because of, whatever, why me? What did I do wrong? I'm so bad, all of these kinds of things. And then there are times when you look at your daughter and see the gift, see the beauty, see the love. And either thing, we can, the ability to do that, to see that either way, it doesn't go away. But to me, with an understanding, it's like learning to love yourself. You see the possibility of kindness, of love, of connection in every moment. And you can also see the opportunity to beat yourself up, to be horrible to yourself, to be horrible to other people. And the more we make the choice to use everything for ourselves, not against ourselves, life just, doors, all sorts of things, everything opens up when we make the choice to use things for ourselves, not against ourselves. So when is this all happening?
That was beautifully said. So the 20th and 21st of September in Oranmore in County Galway. And if anybody wants to get in contact with me, they can get me at Angelina@sassyspirituality.com, or they can check up the website, which is www.sassyspirituality.com. Early bird pricing of €150 is available until Sunday, the 31st of August. So midnight on Sunday night, the early bird is available. We would love to see everybody there. I think Debs is right. Be in the room. That's where the fun is. And yeah, it's about reconnecting with ourselves and learning to love ourselves. And the byproduct of that is making friends with life, make friends with ourselves first.
And you can never get too much of that. It's like shoes, handbags, good fun. You can't have too much. Okay. And if anyone wants to reach out to me, Deborah Simmons, I'm on Facebook. My website is daretobeyou.co.uk. I mean, our inbox is always open. Find a way. You'll find me everywhere. So reach out if you've got questions. Even if you have zero intention of joining us at the retreat, reach out if you have questions, because both Angelina and I absolutely love to answer questions, love connecting with people, love what we are so blessed to do. So thank you so much.
Thank you for listening.
Indeed, indeed.